I'll start when I'm ready. How many times have you said that to yourself? When the timing feels right, when the stars align, when motivation strikes like lightning. But days pass, weeks blur, years vanish into thin air, and you're still standing at the edge, perfectly prepared to do nothing. You call it planning, you call it patience, but it's really fear dressed as wisdom. Hesitation doesn't show up with a siren. It sneaks in quietly in the form of logic, overthinking, fake safety. You don't even realize it's there until one day you wake up and wonder, how did I end up here? Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You are not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you waited. And every time you wait, you feed the lie that there's a perfect moment coming, that you'll act when it feels better, that ready is a real thing. It's not. Ready is a myth. Perfection is a lie. There is no magical moment where everything aligns and fear evaporates. That moment doesn't come. You create it by doing the very thing you're avoiding. Look at your past. How many ideas died in your journal? How many dreams were buried under the weight of maybe next week? How many times have you traded possibility for procrastination and called it preparation? You weren't lazy, you weren't dumb, you simply didn't move. And that inaction, it costs more than you think. It costs you your confidence. It drains your belief in yourself. And worst of all, it numbs your soul. See, most people don't fail because of lack of talent. They fail because they keep waiting for a version of themselves that doesn't exist yet. The confident version, the fearless version, the perfect version. But here's the gut punch. That version only shows up after you start, never before. Hesitation is not a harmless delay. It's a lifestyle. It becomes who you are. The one who almost did it. The one who nearly made it. The one with big plans and no follow-through. And every time you hesitate, every time you pause, you're reinforcing that identity. You think you're buying time, but what you're really doing is burying your potential in silence. Because while you wait, someone else is moving. Someone less experienced, less prepared, less talented, but more decisive. And they'll win. Not because they were better, but because they didn't wait. The world doesn't reward what's inside of you. It rewards what you release. And release requires risk. It requires you to say, screw perfect, I'm going. The greatest enemy of your future is not failure, it's delay. It's the death by 1,000 hesitations. It's the pain of almost. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. What have you been waiting for? A sign? A season? Someone to validate you? Someone to rescue you from your own fear? Stop waiting, because while you wait for your courage, your doubt is growing stronger. While you wait for clarity, your dream is growing colder. And while you wait to feel ready, your future is running out the door. No more. This is the line, right here, where waiting ends and action begins. You don't need permission. You don't need a map. You don't need to be confident. You just need to move, because momentum doesn't come from thinking. It comes from stepping. You don't climb a mountain by staring at it. You climb it one shaky step at a time. Confidence is not what gets you going, it's what you earn by going. So here's what you do. You take the leap without the net. You say yes before you're sure. You show up messy, imperfect, awkward, and still show up. That's the version of you the world is waiting for. The bold one. The reckless one. The one who's done negotiating with fear. The one who understands done beats perfect. Movement beats planning. Now beats someday. And don't you dare say it's too late. You're not too old. You're not too far gone. The only expiration date on your dream is the one you assign to it. And if you're breathing, you're still in the game. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, you will stumble. Yes, the fear will whisper, what if you fail? But let me flip it. What if you don't? What if this time you act and your entire life shifts? What if this chapter becomes the one you point back to and say, that's where everything changed? Because change doesn't need a full plan. It needs a decision, a moment when you stop overthinking and start moving, a moment when you stop being the audience and step into the arena, a moment when the lie of the perfect moment finally dies. This is that moment, not because it feels perfect, but because you're done waiting for perfect. You're not here to hesitate. You're not here to coast. You're not here to almost live the life you want. You're here to start, even if your hands shake, even if your voice cracks, even if your steps are clumsy and uncertain. Start anyway, because your future isn't waiting. It's daring you to catch up. Let this be the end of delay. Let this be the death of hesitation. Let this be the day you finally decide, I'll start now. Chapter 2, Motivation is a liar. It tells you to wait. It tells you to pause until the mood is right. The sky is clear. The fire returns. But here's what motivation never admits. It's a ghost. It disappears the moment you need it most. One hard day, it's gone. One doubt, it's silent. One failure, it vanishes like it was never there. Motivation is emotional. It's a mood, and moods change. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days you can't get out of bed. So if you've built your future on the hope that you'll feel ready, you're already losing. Because feelings lie. They fluctuate, they fade, and they never show up on time. But here's what's real. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. You've been sold the lie that greatness is born from excitement. That successful people wake up every day, feeling charged and hungry. They don't. They just act anyway. They've learned the secret. Action comes first. Inspiration comes second. Not the other way around. You don't wait to feel ready. You move, and then readiness arrives. You start scared. You start tired. You start unsure. But the moment you move, something shifts. Your brain follows your body. Your feelings follow your motion. Your mind wakes up once your feet do. Ask any world-class athlete. Do they feel motivated every time they train? No, but they lace up anyway. Ask a writer. Do they feel inspired every time they sit down to write? But they show up to the page regardless. Ask an entrepreneur. Do they feel fearless every time they launch something new? No, they launch anyway, because they know something amateurs don't. Consistency beats passion. Every time. If you only act when you feel like it, you will rarely act. If you only move when you're hyped up, you'll never build momentum. If you wait for motivation, you'll spend your whole life waiting. You'll become one of the many inspired, talented, but paralyzed. Great ideas, no results, because you thought the spark had to come first. But it doesn't. The spark comes from the strike. You strike by moving. You strike by doing. You strike by ignoring the voice that says, not today. And here's what's wild, that first action, the smallest one, that's where the magic starts. It breaks the resistance. It tells your brain, this is what we do now. You don't become a runner by feeling like running. You become a runner by running. You don't become a creator by being inspired. You become a creator by creating. You don't become confident by waiting for confidence. You earn it by acting without it. Motivation will tell you to wait for the stars to align. Discipline builds its own sky. Motivation whispers later. Discipline demands now. Motivation is passive. It needs conditions. Discipline is active. It creates conditions. And when it gets hard, because it will, motivation taps out. But discipline, it leans in. It knows that progress isn't made in moments of hype. It's made in moments of resistance. The gym sessions you don't want to do, the calls you don't want to make, the content you don't feel like creating, that's where winners are made. Not in highlight reels, but in the silence of follow-through. Look at the greats. Kobe Bryant didn't build the Mamba mentality by waiting to feel like practicing. He practiced at 4 a.m. when the world was asleep, when no cameras were rolling, when no applause was coming. That's discipline. Oprah Winfrey didn't wait for motivation to tell her she was worthy. She built her worth brick by brick, action by action, through rejection, doubt, and pain. That's discipline. Elon Musk didn't launch SpaceX because he was inspired every morning. He moved through fear, through loss, through public failure. That's action. That's motion. That's forward. Not one of them was waiting to feel ready. They moved, and the readiness caught up. So here's the mindset shift. Stop asking, how do I stay motivated? Start asking, what would the disciplined version of me do right now? Because that version already exists. The one who shows up, the one who doesn't negotiate with feeling, the one who moves before the mind agrees. And the more you act like that person, the more you become that person. Discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you build by stacking one action on top of another until the habit becomes identity. And when it does, you stop chasing motivation because you've built something stronger, momentum. And momentum? That's not emotional. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't rely on your energy levels. It feeds on action. It multiplies when you move. But the second you stop, the second you pause and wait to feel like it, momentum dies. That's why most people live in cycles. Start, stop, start, stop. They confuse their potential with progress. They confuse excitement with effort. But you're done with that cycle. Because now you know you don't wait. You move. You act. You create. Even when you're tired. Even when you're uninspired. Even when your doubt screams louder than your dream. And here's the paradox. Once you stop chasing motivation, once you act without it, you'll find it starts showing up anyway. Why? Because now it's chasing you. You built the habit. You proved to yourself that you're not a slave to your emotions. You built trust with your future. So next time you say, I'm not motivated, correct yourself. Say, good, now I get to prove I can do it anyway. That's where your power lives. That's where transformation happens. That's where the extraordinary begins. Not in the moment you feel like it, in the moment you act in spite of it. Chapter 3, The Anatomy of Hesitation. You're not pausing to be strategic. You're pausing because you're scared. Scared of failing. Scared of being judged. Scared of losing what you've convinced yourself is safe. But hesitation never shows its teeth. It doesn't kick in the door screaming stop. It whispers, soft, logical, convincing. Maybe tomorrow. Let's just wait a little longer. Make sure everything's ready. Let's think this through one more time. And just like that, you're frozen. Not because you can't, but because fear knows how to speak your language. You don't realize what's happening at first. You tell yourself it's just a pause, just a moment to breathe, just a second to prepare. But seconds become hours. Hours become weeks. And suddenly, it's not just something you did, it's who you are. Hesitation becomes identity. The person who plans, the person who almost started, the person with the dream, the vision, the potential, but no movement. You weren't always like this. You used to move without thinking. Remember when you were a kid? You didn't hesitate. You jumped. You ran. You spoke. But now you hesitate before everything that matters, before speaking up, before sharing your work, before taking the risk, before stepping forward. Why? Because somewhere along the way, your brain learned a lie, that change equals danger. And here's the science. Your brain is hardwired to protect you. It's not built for greatness. It's built for survival. So every time you try to do something bold, uncomfortable, different, your brain lights up with warnings. Danger, risk, unknown. It doesn't know the difference between actual threat and perceived threat. It reacts the same way to public speaking as it would to a tiger in the jungle. Fight, flight, freeze. So what do? You freeze. You wait. You hesitate. Not because you're weak, but because your biology is trying to protect you. from a future you actually want. And every time you obey that fear, you teach your brain, this is who I am. You reinforce the loop. You condition yourself to believe that hesitation keeps you safe, but it doesn't. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you small. It keeps you living a half-life, always close, but never committed. Every single hesitation is more than a pause. It's a vote for fear, a vote against your future, a vote for staying where you are. And you don't cast it once. You cast it daily, with every opportunity you ignore, every step you delay, every second you think instead of move. But here's what they never told you. Hesitation is not your personality, it's your pattern. And patterns can be broken. You can train your brain to respond differently, to feel the same fear, but move anyway, to see discomfort and lean into it, to feel the doubt and still press forward. The shift starts here. You stop negotiating with hesitation. You stop asking, do I feel like it? You start telling your brain, this is what we do now. Because courage isn't the absence of hesitation. It's the refusal to let it win. When your instinct says wait, you speak. When it says stop, you move. When it says be careful, you go faster. You flip the wiring, you override the system. You teach your nervous system a new story, that discomfort isn't danger, it's direction. That fear isn't a warning, it's a signal you're heading the right way. And every time you override hesitation with action, you create a new connection. You rewire your identity. You become someone else, someone decisive, someone bold, someone who moves. Hesitation dies the moment decisiveness becomes who you are. You stop being the person who waits. You become the one who leads, the one who acts, the one who no longer needs perfect conditions to build a powerful life. You want to kill fear? Out-decide it, out-move it, outwork it. It doesn't take magic. It takes a pattern interrupt. Next time you hesitate, don't wait. Act within 5 seconds. Speak the idea. Send the message. Step toward the thing that scares you. Do it while your heart races. Do it while your voice shakes. Do it with sweaty palms and a mind screaming don't. And do it again, and again, and again, and again, until hesitation becomes the old version of you, until boldness becomes your default, until motion becomes your identity. Because hesitation isn't just a bad habit. It's a belief that you need more time. But what you actually need is less thinking, more doing. You've done enough preparing, enough analyzing, enough waiting. This is where it ends. Every time you choose action over hesitation, you cast a new vote. A vote for growth, a vote for courage, a vote for the future you actually want. And with enough votes, the identity shifts, the wiring changes, the fear fades. So the next time hesitation shows up, don't flint, don't fold, don't freeze. Step forward, because now you know every hesitation is a vote for fear, and you're done voting for your limit. Chapter 4, Becoming the Doer, not the Dreamer. The dreamers wait, doers move. And for most of your life, you've been taught to dream, visualize, journal, imagine, hope. You were told that clarity comes from thinking, that change comes from planning, that breakthroughs happen in your mind first. But here's the truth. You don't think your way into action. You act your way into clarity. The world doesn't bend for those who dream. It bends for those who do. Ideas are easy. Execution is everything. You don't need another vision board. You need motion. You need proof. You need to build evidence that you're the kind of person who moves. This is where the shift begins. You stop identifying as the overthinker. You stop romanticizing the wait. You stop believing that intention is enough, because it's not. Intention without action is just a prettier form of fear. You must rewire your identity from the thinker to the doer. Not later. Not when it feels aligned. Now, train your nervous system to respond with action, repetition, conditioning. Boldness on demand. You feel fear? Move. You feel doubt? Decide. You feel unready? Start. Every time you do the opposite of your instinct, you reclaim power. Speak when you want to stay silent. That's a micro movement. Move when you want to wait. That's a micro movement. Say yes when your mind says hide. That's a micro movement. Small decisions, massive rewiring. Because boldness doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be done. The problem isn't your potential, it's your pause. Every second you spend overthinking is one more vote for who you used to be. Every delay is reinforcement for the identity you're trying to outgrow. But when you act, even in tiny imperfect ways, you fracture the identity of the old you. You send a message, I don't live there anymore, I'm not who I was. This is who I am now. And the beautiful thing, you don't need a massive leap to transform. You need movement, micro movement. Send the email, start the reps, post the video, make the ask, take the walk, make the call. Small, immediate, unfiltered actions that tell your nervous system, we move now. No permission, no perfect conditions, no approval required. This is how you kill hesitation, not by thinking harder, but by acting faster. Your body needs to lead your brain. Your feet must move before your thoughts catch up. Because the moment you hesitate, fear takes the wheel. You were never meant to be frozen by analysis. You were built to move through chaos. Doers don't need guarantees. They don't need certainty. They trust the process. They trust the compounding power of action. One step, then another, and suddenly momentum replaces progress, replaces anxiety. Identity replaces doubt. Because every time you act, you build evidence. I am someone who moves. I am someone who executes. I am not my fear. I am my follow-through. And here's the core truth. Every bold act is a small rebellion against the old you. Every time you act when you used to freeze. Every time you commit when you used to delay. Every time you rise when you used to retreat. You are tearing down the version of yourself that let fear make the rules. This is how you become the doer, not with declarations, not with affirmation, but with relentless action. Day after day, movement over mood, commitment over comfort. You want confidence? Move. You want clarity? Move. You want change? Move. Thinking about action is not action. Talking about the plan is not the plan. Waiting for the feeling is not the move. Movement is the move. You will not feel ready. You will not feel brave. You will not feel certain. And that's okay. Doers aren't fearless. They're just no longer willing to be controlled by hesitation. This is not about being aggressive. It's about being deliberate. Micro movement, intentionally uncomfortable, on purpose. Build the habit of doing the opposite of what your fear tells you. Your brain says stop. You press forward. Your voice says stay quiet. You speak. Your past says play small. You step big. Because one small act can snap you out of who you were and anchor you in who you're becoming. You want to change your life? Change your reaction. Change what you do when it gets uncomfortable. Change how long you hesitate. Shorten the gap between idea and execution. That gap is everything. The longer it is, the weaker you become. The shorter it gets, the more unstoppable you become. You're not here to live in the fantasy of potential. You're here to move. No more thinking without acting. No more dreaming without doing. No more fear wearing the mask of logic. You know what to do. Now become the person who does it. One bold act at a time. One tiny rebellion at a time. Until you look up and the old you, the hesitant you, the dreamer with no movement, is nothing but a memory. Chapter 5, The Discipline Edge. Discipline isn't a cage, it's a key. Not punishment. Power, not control. Freedom. Discipline is what you do when motivation dies, when the fire burns out, when the feeling fades. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. Motivation is mood. Discipline is identity. The ones who win long term. They don't rely on how they feel. They rely on what they've built. Routines, rituals, systems. The gym at 5 a.m., the notebook at 6, the cold email at 7. Whether it's raining, whether they're tired, whether they feel like it or not, they show up, because showing up isn't a question. It's a rule. Discipline makes it automatic. No friction, no debate, just action. Kobe Bryant shot 1,000 jumpers before sunrise, not because he was motivated, because it was who he was. Oprah reads daily, writes daily, reflects daily. It's not magic, it's maintenance. Elon Musk works 100. You think he's running on inspiration? No, he's running on discipline. Success doesn't come from what you do once. It comes from what you do every single day. Discipline is the ultimate identity anchor. You do it enough, it stops being something you do. It becomes someone you are. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not loud. It doesn't post on Instagram. But it stacks, and stacks, and stacks, and stacks, until one day the gap between you and everyone else is so wide it looks like talent. But it's not. It's just So here's the truth. If you want a breakthrough, stop chasing the mood. Start mastering the method. Build rituals that don't require emotion. Stack habits that don't rely on hype. Automate your greatness. Because freedom isn't found in doing what you want. Freedom is built by doing what you said you would do. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That's the edge. That's the separator. That's Chapter 6. Kill the inner critic. There's a voice in your head. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And it sounds just enough like you that you believe it. You're not good enough. You're not ready. Who do you think you are? That voice is not your conscience. It's your conditioning. It's your past. Your parents. That teacher who embarrassed you. That coach who benched you. That friend who laughed. That failure you never forgot. It's the media you consumed. The stories you believed. The moments you froze. The identities you never challenged. And now that voice wears your face. It speaks in your tone. It hides behind the mask of logic. But here's the truth. That voice has never built anything. Not one dream. Not one masterpiece. Not one legacy. It only knows how to destroy, to delay, to doubt. You want to move. You'll have to kill it. How? Starve the voice. Feed the action. When the voice says don't speak, you speak louder. When it says play small, you step bigger. When it says you're not enough, you prove it wrong with motion. Every time you act in defiance of that voice, it loses power. Every rep weakens its grip. Every move builds your volume. You don't have to silence it first. You just have to stop obeying it. Because the truth is, that voice is lying. Always has been. And the more you move, the more you realize that critic never knew the real you. It only knew the scared version, the small version, the version that stopped. But now you move. Now you act. Now you choose. And in motion, that voice can't keep up. It gets quieter with every decision, every defiant step, every bold refusal to shrink. So starve the voice, feed the action, because you are not your critic. You are your courage. Chapter 7. Start ugly, move messy. You've been sold a lie that you need a perfect plan, that you need polished skills, that you need more time, more clarity, more readiness. No, you need movement. Messy, bold, chaotic movement. Start ugly, move messy, fail forward. Because perfection is the most elegant form of procrastination. It looks noble, but it's fear. The greatest creators, they didn't wait to be polished. They moved before they were ready. Steve Jobs launched a product with no instructions. Damon John sewed shirts in his mom's living room. Lady Gaga played in empty bars before the world noticed. Messy starts, massive results. You want greatness? You better be willing to look like a beginner. You better be willing to fall flat, post cringe, sound offbeat. Because progress doesn't live in the perfect. It lives in the done. Clarity isn't the fuel, it's the result. You move first. The understanding comes later. You write badly until you write well. You speak clumsy until you speak powerfully. You act scared until you act fearless. Everyone you admire once sucked. They just didn't let sucking stop them. So start before you're confident. Start before you're certain. Start before you're proud. Ugly starts are sacred because they mean you were brave enough to begin. Nothing is built in the comfort of polish. Everything is born in the storm of courage. Messy is honest. Messy is real. Messy is momentum. Let others wait to be perfect. You move. It rolls. It builds. It flies. Momentum compounds. It multiplies. It becomes your weapon. Momentum doesn't need motivation. It creates its own fuel. Start with 1 rep, then stack, 1 word, then a page, 1 client, then a business. You don't need to go fast. You need to not stop. A boulder rolls once it crests the hill. A rocket escapes gravity with consistent thrust. A fire rages not from the spark, but from the stoke. Momentum is built in the boring, in the daily, in the discipline. Habits, not hype. Motion, not magic. Forget the overnight. Forget the explosion. Forget the big break. Just keep moving. Keep showing up. Keep stacking proof. That's momentum. That's power. Because the moment you stop, you start again from zero. But if you never stop, nothing can stop you. It's not about how fast you start. It's about how long you keep going. Momentum doesn't come to the loudest. It comes to the most consistent. So today, move. Tomorrow, move. And the day after that, move again. Worship movement. Protect your rhythm. Honor your process. Make momentum your new religion. Chapter 9. The compound effect of small actions. The giant result you want? It starts with something laughably small. 1 page. 1 push-up. 1 call. Done once, it's a step. Done daily, it's a revolution. Daily actions shape lifetime results. You don't need intensity. You need consistency. A single brick isn't impressive, but stack them, you get a wall, then a tower, then a fortress. Want to write a book? 1 page a day, 65 pages in a year. Want to build a business? Serve 1 client, then another, then another. Most people don't fail. They quit. They stop just before momentum compounds. It wasn't lack of talent. It was lack of patience. So ask yourself, what would happen if you didn't quit this time? What would your life look like if you just stayed in motion? Not for a day, not for a week, but for a year. You think big leaps change things, but it's the small steps that never stop. Tiny wins, daily, relentless, steady, invisible today, undeniable tomorrow. That's the compound effect. That's how empires are built. That's how legacies are written. So start small and never stop. Chapter 10. The unstoppable identity. You're not the same person anymore. You don't wait. You don't hesitate. You move. You act. You build. You rise. You rewired your brain. You trained your nervous system. You rewrote your story. You are no longer the one with potential. You are the one with proof. You are no longer the dreamer. You are the doer. This is your identity now. I am the kind of person who moves. You show up, not when it's convenient, but because it's who you are. You take action, not when you feel ready, but because action makes you ready. You have momentum. You have habits. You have discipline. And now you're unstoppable. So here's your call. Don't wait for courage. Don't wait for clarity. Move. Now. Because the future isn't given. It's built. And you're already building